Life often feels like a storm, chaotic, unpredictable, and relentless. In the whirlwind of modern life, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by responsibilities, ambitions, and the endless pursuit of success. But amidst this noise, one truth has stood the test of time: prioritizing God brings clarity, purpose, and peace. Putting God first in everything doesn't mean life becomes easy, but it does mean life gains meaning. Think about the moments when you felt lost or unsure of your next step. Maybe it was a decision about a career, a relationship, or a personal goal. Those moments of uncertainty are reminders of our limitations as humans. We often operate with incomplete knowledge, relying on our instincts or advice from others. But God sees the entire picture. He knows our past, present, and future. When you start your day by dedicating it to God, you're making a statement. You're saying, "Lord, I trust your plan more than mine." This simple act of surrender transforms your mindset. Instead of being consumed by anxiety about outcomes, you operate with faith, believing that every step is guided by a higher purpose. It's not just about praying in the morning, it's about aligning every action, decision, and thought with the values and direction God has for your life. For instance, let's talk about work. In a culture that glorifies hustle, it's easy to prioritize career ambitions over spiritual well-being. But when you put God first, your perspective shifts. Work stops being a source of identity and stress and becomes an opportunity to glorify God through excellence and integrity. Success, then, is no longer defined solely by promotions or paychecks but by how closely your actions align with God's will. Relationships also take on a new meaning when God is at the center. Instead of being driven by personal desires or societal expectations, your connections are shaped by love, patience, and selflessness. By seeking God's guidance in how you treat others, you cultivate deeper and more meaningful relationships that reflect His grace. The beauty of putting God first is that it's not about perfection, it's about intention. None of us will get it right all the time. We'll have days when we forget to pray, moments when we act out of selfishness, or times when doubt clouds our faith. But God doesn't expect us to be flawless. He calls us to be faithful. When you prioritize Him, even in small ways, He meets you where you are, turning your efforts into something far greater than you could imagine. Putting God first also requires intentionality in the face of distractions. Social media, busy schedules, and endless entertainment options can easily consume our time and attention. To counter this, you must create space for God in your daily routine. Whether it's through prayer, reading scripture, or simply taking a moment to reflect, these practices recenter your focus and remind you of what truly matters. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of putting God first is the sense of peace it brings. The world may be full of uncertainties, but when your foundation is rooted in God, you're unshaken by temporary challenges. You understand that every trial has a purpose and every blessing a responsibility. This perspective not only strengthens your faith but also inspires others to seek the same peace in their lives. Imagine a life where decisions are no longer burdensome because you trust in divine guidance. A life where setbacks don't destroy your confidence because you know God has a plan. A life where you wake up every morning with clarity and purpose, knowing that you're walking the path He set for you. This is the promise of putting God first. By making Him your priority, you're not just transforming your own life, you're creating a ripple effect. Your faith and dedication inspire those around you to do the same, ultimately creating a community rooted in love, hope, and purpose. This is the power of putting God first. When life gets tough, many people instinctively turn to God. In moments of crisis, we're reminded of how much we need Him. But putting God first isn't just about calling on Him in times of trouble, it's about making Him the centerpiece of your life every single day. It's about creating a relationship that thrives in both the highs and the lows. Think about relationships with the people closest to you. Whether it's a friend, partner, or family member, strong bonds are built on consistent communication, trust, and shared experiences. The same principle applies to your relationship with God. If you only reach out to Him when you're in need, the connection can feel distant or transactional. But when you consistently invite God into every aspect of your life, you'll experience a depth of peace and fulfillment that nothing else can offer. One of the ways to put God first is to begin your day with Him. Before checking your phone or diving into the responsibilities of the day, take a moment to pray or reflect. It's a simple habit that shifts your focus from the chaos of the world to the stability of God's presence. It's in those quiet moments that clarity begins to emerge. When you start with God, you invite Him to guide your thoughts, words, and actions throughout the day. But putting God first isn't just about the beginning of the day, it's about keeping Him at the forefront throughout. Whether you're making a big decision or facing a small inconvenience, ask yourself, what would God want me to do in this situation? This question can be a compass, steering you toward choices that align with His teachings. For instance, let's consider the challenges of modern life, such as financial pressures. It's tempting to prioritize material success, believing that more money or possessions will bring happiness. But Scripture reminds us that we cannot serve both God and wealth. By putting God first, you shift your focus from accumulating things to cultivating a life of purpose and generosity. You start to see your resources, time, energy, and money, as tools to serve others and glorify God. Relationships also flourish when God is your priority. When you treat others with the love, forgiveness, and grace that He shows you, your connections deepen. This applies not only to loved ones but also to strangers and even those who've wronged you. It's not always easy, but putting God first means trusting Him to heal broken relationships and provide strength to forgive. Another way to prioritize God is by aligning your goals with His plan. It's easy to get caught up in personal ambitions, striving to achieve your dreams on your terms. But what if the dreams you're chasing aren't what God has in store for you? When you involve God in your planning, He often redirects your path in ways you didn't expect but ultimately lead to greater fulfillment. This isn't to say that putting God first will make life effortless. Challenges will still arise, and doubts may creep in. But the difference is that you won't face them alone. When God is your foundation, every obstacle becomes an opportunity to grow in faith. You start to see setbacks as setups for something greater, trusting that God's timing is perfect even when it doesn't align with yours. One of the most profound aspects of putting God first is the way it transforms your mindset. Instead of worrying about the things you can't control, you develop a sense of trust and surrender. You begin to understand that true peace doesn't come from external circumstances but from the presence of God in your life. Imagine carrying this sense of peace into every aspect of your life: your work, your relationships, your health. When God is first, everything else falls into place. Not because life becomes perfect, but because your priorities are aligned with His eternal perspective. This alignment brings a joy that transcends circumstances, a joy that draws others to God through your example. By putting God first, you're not just improving your own life, you're creating a testimony that inspires others. Your faith becomes a light in a world that desperately needs hope. And in the process, you discover that when you put God first, everything else that truly matters follows. One of the greatest misconceptions about putting God first is the belief that it means sacrificing happiness or success. Society often paints a picture of faith as restrictive, as though surrendering to God means giving up on your dreams or desires. But in truth, putting God first opens the door to a deeper, more fulfilling kind of joy, the kind that isn't dependent on circumstances but is rooted in His unwavering love and guidance. When you prioritize God, you're not letting go of your ambitions. Instead, you're aligning them with a higher purpose. Consider this: how often do we chase after goals only to find that they don't bring the satisfaction we expected? Maybe it's the job you thought would complete you or the relationship you believed would erase your loneliness. These pursuits, while not inherently bad, can leave us empty if they take precedence over our relationship with God. God doesn't ask us to abandon our dreams. Instead, He invites us to place those dreams in His hands. When you do, something incredible happens. Your perspective shifts from, "How can I succeed?" to, "How can I glorify God through this?" This doesn't mean you stop striving for excellence, it means you redefine success. True success is walking in obedience to God's will and trusting Him with the results. This mindset is particularly powerful in moments of failure or disappointment. When you've worked hard for something and it doesn't work out, it's easy to feel defeated. But when God is first, you understand that setbacks aren't the end of the story, they're part of His greater plan. What feels like a loss in the moment might be God redirecting you towards something far better than you could imagine. Let's take relationships as an example. Many people pour their energy into finding the perfect partner, often putting their relationship above all else. But when God is first, your approach to love changes. Instead of seeking someone to complete you, you focus on becoming the kind of person who reflects God's love. This not only deepens your relationship with Him but also prepares you for healthier, more meaningful connections with others. The same principle applies to your work and ambitions. When you view your career as a way to serve God, it transforms how you approach your job. Whether you're an executive or an entry-level employee, your work becomes a form of worship when you strive for excellence with integrity and humility. This doesn't mean you won't face challenges. Difficult coworkers, tight deadlines, and office politics are realities in any workplace. But when God is your priority, you navigate these challenges with grace, knowing that your ultimate reward isn't earthly recognition but the knowledge that you've honored Him. Putting God first also requires letting go of the illusion of control. As humans, we have a natural tendency to plan every detail of our lives, clinging to the belief that we can predict or dictate outcomes. But the truth is, control is an illusion. Life is unpredictable, and no amount of planning can shield us from its uncertainties. What we can do, however, is trust the One who holds our future. This trust doesn't come naturally, it's something we cultivate through daily surrender. It might look like praying before making a major decision or pausing to thank God in the middle of a busy day. Over time, these small acts of faith add up, creating a foundation of trust that carries you through life's challenges. When God is first, even your struggles take on new meaning. You begin to see them as opportunities for growth, as ways to deepen your dependence on Him. This doesn't mean you won't experience pain. Faith doesn't eliminate hardship. But it does provide a source of strength and hope that the world cannot offer. You come to understand that even in your darkest moments, God is working behind the scenes, weaving a story of redemption and purpose. Ultimately, putting God first isn't just about what He does for you, it's about how it changes you. It transforms your heart, your priorities, and your perspective. You start to see life not as a series of random events but as a divine tapestry, with every thread carefully placed by the Creator. And as you walk in faith, you discover the incredible truth: when God is first, everything else falls into its rightful place. Putting God first in everything requires a shift in how we approach our daily lives. It's not about fitting Him into our schedules when it's convenient but about allowing Him to shape every decision, priority, and action. This kind of surrender isn't always easy, especially in a world that constantly pulls us in different directions. Yet, it's in this surrender that we find true freedom and peace. Many people struggle with the idea of giving God control because it feels like losing independence. We've been conditioned to believe that our happiness and success depend on our efforts, our plans, and our abilities. But the truth is, trying to navigate life without God is like steering a ship without a compass. You might move forward, but you'll never truly know if you're headed in the right direction. When you put God first, you're not losing control, you're giving control to the One who knows what's best for you. He sees what we cannot, and His plans for us are always rooted in love, even when they don't align with our own desires. Think about the times in your life when things didn't go as planned. Perhaps you lost a job, a relationship ended, or an opportunity slipped through your fingers. In the moment, it felt like a failure. But looking back, you might realize that those closed doors led to something better, something you couldn't see at the time. This is the beauty of putting God first. It allows you to trust in His timing and direction, even when life feels uncertain. Instead of clinging to your own plans, you learn to hold them loosely, knowing that God's purpose will always prevail. This doesn't mean you stop dreaming or setting goals, it means you invite God into the process, seeking His guidance every step of the way. One practical way to do this is by starting each day with a prayer of surrender. It doesn't have to be elaborate, a simple, heartfelt prayer is enough. You might say, "Lord, I give this day to you. Guide my steps, my words, and my decisions. Help me to honor you in all I do." This daily act of surrender sets the tone for your day, reminding you to keep God at the center. Another way to put God first is by making time for Him in your schedule. Just as we prioritize important meetings or appointments, we should prioritize time with God. This might mean setting aside time to read the Bible, pray, or simply sit in His presence. These moments of connection not only strengthen your faith but also provide clarity and peace as you navigate life's challenges. Putting God first also involves trusting Him with your resources. Whether it's your time, money, or talents, everything you have is a gift from God. When you choose to use these resources to serve others and glorify Him, you're acknowledging that He is the source of all blessings. This might look like volunteering at your church, supporting a cause you believe in, or using your skills to help someone in need. These acts of generosity not only bless others but also deepen your relationship with God. Of course, putting God first doesn't mean life will always be smooth. You'll still face trials, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But the difference is that you won't face them alone. When God is your foundation, you can endure challenges with the assurance that He is with you, guiding you through every storm. His presence gives you the strength to persevere, the wisdom to make decisions, and the peace to trust in His plan. Ultimately, putting God first is about cultivating a relationship with Him that impacts every aspect of your life. It's about acknowledging that without Him, we are nothing, and with Him, we have everything we need. It's a journey of faith, trust, and surrender that leads to a life of purpose, joy, and fulfillment. And as you walk this path, you'll not only experience the blessings of putting God first but also inspire others to do the same. One of the most profound changes that comes with putting God first is how it reshapes your priorities. In a fast-paced world where success is often measured by material achievements, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. By choosing to put God first, you begin to see life through a different lens, one that values faith, relationships, and eternal purpose over fleeting accomplishments. At the core of this transformation is the realization that everything we have is temporary. The houses we build, the careers we chase, and the possessions we acquire will all fade away. But the impact we make through love, kindness, and faith leaves a lasting legacy. When God is at the center of your life, your focus shifts from striving for worldly success to seeking ways to honor Him in all you do. This perspective is especially important when facing decisions that test your values. For example, consider a situation where you're offered a lucrative job that conflicts with your principles. The temptation to compromise might be strong, especially if the reward seems great. But when you put God first, your choices are guided by His teachings, not by the allure of short-term gains. You recognize that no amount of money or status is worth sacrificing your integrity or relationship with Him. Similarly, putting God first can bring clarity to the way you spend your time. In today's culture, busyness is often worn as a badge of honor. We fill our schedules to the brim, juggling work, social commitments, and personal goals, leaving little room for rest or reflection. But God calls us to a different rhythm, one that prioritizes time spent with Him and the people He's placed in our lives. This doesn't mean abandoning your responsibilities, but it does mean reassessing your priorities. Are you so focused on climbing the corporate ladder that you've neglected your spiritual health? Are you so consumed by social media that you've lost touch with the people around you? Putting God first invites you to step back and evaluate what truly matters. Another powerful aspect of putting God first is how it transforms your attitude toward challenges. Life is full of obstacles, financial struggles, health issues, broken relationships, but when God is your foundation, you approach these challenges with a different mindset. Instead of seeing them as insurmountable problems, you see them as opportunities to grow in faith and reliance on Him. Take, for instance, the story of a single mother struggling to provide for her children. She works tirelessly, often feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. But every night, she kneels in prayer, asking God for strength and wisdom. Despite her challenges, she remains hopeful, knowing that God is her provider and sustainer. Her faith not only carries her through but also sets an example for her children, teaching them the power of trusting God in every situation. Putting God first also means trusting Him with your relationships. Whether it's with family, friends, or a spouse, inviting God into these connections brings a deeper sense of love and understanding. You begin to treat others with the same grace and forgiveness that God extends to you. This doesn't mean relationships will always be easy, but it does mean you'll approach them with a heart rooted in faith and humility. Moreover, putting God first equips you to handle criticism and rejection with grace. In a world that often celebrates popularity and validation, it's easy to feel discouraged when others don't understand or support your decisions. But when your worth is grounded in God's love, you're less affected by external opinions. You realize that pleasing Him is far more important than gaining the approval of others. Ultimately, putting God first is a daily commitment, a choice to surrender your plans, trust His timing, and live in obedience to His will. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. The peace, purpose, and fulfillment that come from aligning your life with God's priorities far outweigh any temporary struggles. And as you walk this path, you'll inspire others to seek the same joy and freedom that comes from putting God first. Putting God first means stepping into a life of gratitude and surrender, two concepts that are deeply transformative. Gratitude opens your eyes to the blessings you already have, while surrender allows you to release control and trust in God's plan. Together, these principles create a foundation for a life filled with purpose, joy, and spiritual strength. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you've been given. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparison, especially in a world where everyone's highlights are on display. Social media can make it seem like others are living better, more fulfilling lives, which can lead to feelings of inadequacy or envy. But when you prioritize God, gratitude becomes your antidote to this negativity. You start to see the beauty in your own journey, recognizing the ways God has provided for you, even in small, everyday moments. For example, consider the simple blessing of waking up each morning. How often do we take that for granted? By starting your day with a prayer of thanks, acknowledging your health, your family, or even the roof over your head, you cultivate a heart that is open to God's presence. Gratitude isn't just about acknowledging the good, it's about trusting that even in challenges, God is working for your good. This trust is where surrender comes in. Surrendering to God doesn't mean giving up or being passive, it means releasing the need to control every outcome. It's a declaration of faith that says, "Lord, I don't have all the answers, but I trust that you do." This kind of surrender is one of the most freeing acts you can practice because it lifts the burden of carrying everything on your shoulders. One of the greatest examples of surrender can be seen in Jesus' life. Before his crucifixion, he prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, saying, "Not my will, but yours be done." This moment of complete surrender was not easy, but it was necessary for the greater purpose God had planned. When we follow this example, we find that surrendering to God's will leads to outcomes far greater than anything we could orchestrate ourselves. In daily life, surrender might look like letting go of a job opportunity that doesn't align with God's values or choosing to forgive someone who has wronged you, even when it's painful. It might mean taking a step of faith into the unknown, trusting that God will provide what you need along the way. Each act of surrender deepens your relationship with Him, building a trust that carries you through life's uncertainties. Putting God first also means being intentional about your thought life. Our minds are often filled with worries about the future or regrets about the past, but God calls us to focus on the present and to renew our minds with His truth. When you center your thoughts on Him, you break free from the cycle of negativity and fear. Instead of dwelling on what could go wrong, you begin to see each moment as an opportunity to glorify God and grow in faith. One powerful way to keep God at the center of your thoughts is through Scripture. Verses like Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6, which says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding," remind us to rely on Him rather than our own limited perspective. Memorizing and meditating on these truths can bring peace and clarity, especially during times of doubt or stress. When you combine gratitude and surrender, your entire outlook on life changes. Challenges become opportunities to witness God's power, and successes become moments to reflect His glory. You stop striving for perfection and start resting in His grace, knowing that His strength is made perfect in your weakness. This approach doesn't just transform your personal relationship with God, it impacts how you interact with the world. Gratitude and surrender make you more compassionate, patient, and understanding toward others. When people see the peace and joy you carry, even in difficult circumstances, they're drawn to the source of your strength. Your life becomes a testimony of what it means to put God first, inspiring others to seek Him as well. When you put God first, you begin to see your life as part of a greater story, one authored by a loving Creator who has a plan for every detail. This perspective changes everything, especially how you approach setbacks and struggles. Life's challenges, rather than being obstacles, become opportunities to trust God more deeply and to grow in your faith. Challenges are inevitable, but when God is your foundation, you're equipped to face them with courage and resilience. Consider the story of Job, a man who lost everything: his family, his wealth, his health, yet remained steadfast in his faith. Job's story is a powerful reminder that putting God first doesn't mean life will be free of pain. Instead, it means that even in suffering, God's presence is your source of strength and hope. When difficulties arise, it's natural to question why. Why would a loving God allow pain? Why does He let us experience loss or disappointment? These are valid questions, and the answers often remain beyond our understanding. But putting God first means choosing to trust Him even when you don't have all the answers. It's about believing that His plans are for your good, even when they don't align with your expectations. One of the most comforting truths about putting God first is knowing that He walks with you through every trial. Psalm 23 verse 4 reminds us, "Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." This assurance of God's presence doesn't remove the pain, but it does provide peace in the midst of it. When you prioritize your relationship with Him, you're never alone, no matter how isolating your circumstances may feel. Putting God first also helps you find meaning in your struggles. Pain, while never easy, often serves a purpose. It refines your character, deepens your empathy, and strengthens your dependence on God. The Apostle Paul understood this well. In 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9, he writes, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Paul's hardships didn't disappear, but his perspective changed. He saw his struggles as a way for God's strength to shine through him. This mindset can transform the way you approach life's difficulties. Instead of viewing them as punishments or failures, you see them as opportunities to grow closer to God and to reflect His glory. This doesn't mean you have to pretend everything is okay or suppress your emotions. God welcomes your honesty. He wants you to bring your pain, your fears, and your doubts to Him. When you do, He meets you with comfort and understanding, guiding you through the storm. One practical way to put God first during challenging times is through worship. It might seem counterintuitive to praise God when life feels overwhelming, but worship shifts your focus from your problems to His power. It's a declaration of faith that says, "Even in this, I trust you." Whether it's singing, praying, or meditating on His promises, worship is a powerful way to remind yourself of God's sovereignty and love. Another way to keep God at the center is by surrounding yourself with a community of faith. Challenges are easier to bear when you have others to support and encourage you. Seek out people who will pray with you, speak truth into your life, and remind you of God's promises. Community is a gift from God, and it plays a vital role in helping you stay grounded in your faith. As you navigate life's struggles, remember that putting God first isn't about being strong on your own, it's about relying on His strength. It's about trusting that He will provide what you need, even when the path ahead is unclear. And as you persevere, you'll discover a deeper relationship with Him and a greater sense of purpose in your journey. Ultimately, putting God first transforms the way you experience both joy and pain. It anchors you in a love that never wavers, a hope that never fades, and a peace that surpasses all understanding. And in that, you find the strength to keep moving forward, knowing that God is with you every step of the way. Putting God first is not only about the grand moments of faith but also about the small, daily choices that build a life centered on Him. It's in the everyday decisions, how you treat others, how you handle stress, and how you spend your time, that your commitment to God is truly revealed. These moments may seem insignificant, but they are the building blocks of a life that honors Him. One of the most powerful ways to put God first in your daily life is through intentional kindness. The world can be harsh, and people are often consumed by their own struggles. When you choose to reflect God's love through acts of kindness, you not only uplift others but also draw closer to Him. This might look like listening to a friend who needs support, offering encouragement to a coworker, or helping a stranger in need. These acts, though small, carry a divine significance when done with a heart that seeks to glorify God. In addition to kindness, putting God first means prioritizing honesty and integrity. In a world that often rewards shortcuts and compromises, staying true to your values can feel challenging. Yet, every decision you make is an opportunity to reflect God's character. Whether it's being honest in your work, honoring commitments, or admitting mistakes, these choices demonstrate that your faith is not just a belief but a way of life. Another area where putting God first can transform your daily life is in how you handle stress and challenges. When life feels overwhelming, it's easy to turn to temporary fixes, distractions, venting, or even unhealthy habits. But when you prioritize God, you develop a habit of turning to Him first. Instead of letting stress control you, you find peace through prayer, scripture, and worship. Philippians 4 verses 6-7 offers a profound promise: do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This peace isn't dependent on circumstances, it's a gift that comes from trusting God completely. When you practice this trust daily, you build resilience that carries you through life's ups and downs. Putting God first also requires being intentional about how you use your time. In a culture that glorifies busyness, it's easy to fill every moment with tasks and distractions, leaving little room for God. But your time is one of the most valuable resources you have, and how you spend it reflects your priorities. Making time for prayer, reading the Bible, and quiet reflection isn't about adding another task to your to-do list, it's about creating space for God to speak into your life. Consider this: if you were to track how you spend your time each day, what would it reveal about your priorities? Are you investing in your relationship with God, or are you letting other things take precedence? Making even small changes, like setting aside a few minutes each morning or turning off distractions during prayer, can have a profound impact on your spiritual growth. Another practical way to keep God first is by practicing gratitude throughout the day. It's easy to get caught up in what's wrong or what's missing, but gratitude shifts your focus to God's goodness. Whether it's thanking Him for a beautiful sunrise, a kind gesture, or the strength to face another day, these moments of thanksgiving remind you of His presence in every detail of your life. Finally, putting God first in your daily life means being open to His guidance. Sometimes, His plans might interrupt yours, leading you in unexpected directions. These moments require humility and faith, trusting that His ways are higher than yours. When you embrace these detours with an open heart, you'll often find that they lead to blessings you never could have imagined. The daily choice to put God first is an act of faith, love, and commitment. It's a decision that shapes who you are and how you live. And as you prioritize Him in the small, ordinary moments, you'll find that your life begins to reflect His extraordinary grace and purpose. Putting God first is a lifelong journey, not a one-time decision. It requires consistency, humility, and a willingness to grow in faith every day. This process is deeply personal, yet it impacts every aspect of your life, including your identity, your purpose, and your influence on others. At the heart of putting God first is understanding who you are in Him. The world often tries to define us by our achievements, appearances, or social status. These identities, however, are fragile and fleeting. When you base your worth on things that can change or be lost, you're left feeling insecure and unfulfilled. But when you put God first, you root your identity in something eternal, His love. God's love is not based on what you do but on who you are, His child. This truth is both humbling and empowering. It reminds you that you don't have to earn His approval, you already have it. And because your worth comes from Him, you're free to live with confidence and purpose, unshaken by the opinions or expectations of others. This shift in identity also transforms how you approach your purpose. Many people spend their lives searching for meaning, hoping that a career, relationship, or achievement will give them a sense of fulfillment. But true purpose comes from aligning your life with God's plan. When you put Him first, you stop chasing things that don't satisfy you and start pursuing what truly matters, loving God and loving others. One way to discover your purpose in God is through service. When you use your time, talents, and resources to bless others, you not only glorify God but also experience the joy of making a difference. Serving doesn't have to be grand or public, it can be as simple as helping a neighbor, volunteering in your community, or mentoring someone who needs guidance. These acts of love are reflections of God's heart, and they bring His presence into the lives of those around you. Putting God first also shapes how you handle success and influence. In today's culture, success is often equated with personal gain, achieving your goals, building your brand, or climbing the social ladder. But when God is your priority, success takes on a new meaning. It's no longer about what you can achieve for yourself but about how you can use your platform to glorify Him. This perspective is especially important in leadership roles, whether in your family, workplace, or community. As a leader, you have the opportunity to reflect God's character through your actions and decisions. This might mean leading with integrity, showing compassion to those you oversee, or using your position to advocate for justice and truth. When God is first, your leadership becomes a form of ministry, influencing others in ways that extend far beyond what you can see. However, putting God first doesn't mean life will be without challenges. In fact, the more you prioritize Him, the more you may face resistance, both from external pressures and your own internal struggles. Doubts, fears, and temptations will inevitably arise, but they don't have to derail your faith. When these challenges come, remember that they are opportunities to rely on God's strength and deepen your trust in Him. Scripture offers countless examples of people who faced obstacles yet remained faithful to God. Consider Daniel, who continued to pray despite knowing it could cost him his life, or Esther, who risked everything to save her people. Their stories remind us that putting God first often requires courage and sacrifice. But they also show us that when we choose Him, He equips us with the strength and wisdom we need to persevere. Ultimately, putting God first is about living a life that points others to Him. Your faith, love, and humility can inspire those around you to seek God for themselves. Whether it's through your words, your actions, or simply the way you carry yourself, you have the power to be a witness to His grace. As you continue this journey, remember that God doesn't ask for perfection, He asks for your heart. Putting Him first isn't about never making mistakes, it's about consistently seeking Him, even when you stumble. And as you grow in faith, you'll find that the more you prioritize God, the more your life will reflect His goodness, peace, and purpose. Putting God first creates a ripple effect that extends far beyond your personal life. It influences your relationships, your community, and even how you impact the world. This transformation begins in your heart but has the power to shape the lives of everyone you encounter. By prioritizing God, you become a vessel of His love, grace, and truth. Relationships, in particular, are deeply impacted when God is at the center. Human connections are often fraught with misunderstandings, disagreements, and unmet expectations. But when you approach relationships with a heart aligned with God's will, they become opportunities to demonstrate His love and forgiveness. Instead of seeking what you can gain from others, you focus on how you can serve and uplift them. For example, in marriage or partnerships, putting God first means prioritizing mutual respect, selflessness, and prayer. It's about seeking God's guidance not only during conflicts but also in everyday decisions. This creates a foundation of trust and unity that can withstand the inevitable challenges of life. Similarly, in friendships, putting God first allows you to be a source of encouragement and accountability, pointing your friends back to Him when they feel lost or discouraged. Your relationship with your family also changes when God takes precedence. Whether you're a parent, sibling, or child, putting Him first means leading by example. Parents, for instance, have a profound opportunity to model faith for their children, teaching them not just through words but through actions. When kids see their parents consistently turning to God in prayer, making decisions based on His teachings, and prioritizing time with Him, they're more likely to develop their own faith. In the broader community, putting God first compels you to live with compassion and integrity. The way you treat others, whether it's your neighbor, coworker, or a stranger, reflects your commitment to God's principles. Acts of kindness, fairness, and justice become not just good deeds but expressions of your faith. This is especially important in today's divided world, where people often feel unseen or undervalued. When you prioritize God, you have the opportunity to be a light in dark places, bringing hope and healing to those around you. Another powerful aspect of putting God first is how it shapes your response to social issues. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the problems in the world, poverty, injustice, inequality, but when God is your guide, you approach these issues with a sense of purpose and hope. Instead of being paralyzed by their magnitude, you ask, Lord, how can I make a difference in this situation? Whether it's through prayer, advocacy, or action, you trust that even small efforts, when done in obedience to God, can have a significant impact. Putting God first also influences how you view your own ambitions and success. In a society that often values individual achievement above all else, prioritizing God means using your gifts and opportunities for a greater purpose. This doesn't mean you can't pursue personal goals, but it does mean asking how those goals align with His will. Are you using your talents to serve others? Are your accomplishments drawing attention to yourself or to God's glory? These questions keep your heart in check and ensure that your success is rooted in humility and gratitude. Additionally, putting God first equips you to navigate the temptations and distractions that can pull you away from your faith. The world offers countless substitutes for God's presence, money, power, approval, but none of them truly satisfy. When you prioritize Him, you're less likely to chase after these empty promises because your soul is already filled by His love. This doesn't mean you'll never struggle with temptation, but it does mean you'll have the strength and discernment to resist it. Finally, putting God first transforms your perspective on eternity. Life is fleeting, and none of us knows how many days we have left. When you prioritize God, you live with the understanding that this life is not the end but a preparation for eternity with Him. This eternal perspective gives you peace in the face of uncertainty and motivates you to live each day with purpose and intentionality. In the end, putting God first is about more than just personal fulfillment, it's about reflecting His love to the world. As you align your life with His will, you become a living testimony of His grace, inspiring others to seek Him. And in doing so, you fulfill the greatest calling of all, to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love others as yourself. Putting God first redefines how you face adversity and triumph, transforming your outlook on both life's challenges and blessings. It's a perspective that helps you rise above difficulties with faith and navigate success with humility. This balance is key to living a life that not only honors God but also brings peace and fulfillment. Adversity is often where faith is tested most deeply. When life feels overwhelming, it's natural to question God's presence or plan. But putting Him first means trusting that even in the midst of pain, He is working for your good. This trust doesn't come easily, it's something that grows over time as you experience His faithfulness in your life. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and wrongfully imprisoned, Joseph endured years of hardship. Yet through it all, he remained faithful to God, trusting in His plan. In the end, Joseph's trials led to a position of great influence, allowing him to save countless lives during a famine. His story reminds us that even when we can't see the bigger picture, God is weaving something beautiful out of our struggles. In your own life, adversity might look like a health crisis, financial difficulty, or the loss of a loved one. These moments are undeniably painful, but they also present opportunities to draw closer to God. When you put Him first, you approach these challenges with a mindset of surrender and trust. Instead of trying to fix everything on your own, you lean on His strength, seeking His guidance through prayer and Scripture. Putting God first during trials doesn't mean ignoring your pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about bringing your burdens to Him, knowing that He cares deeply for you. In Matthew 11 verses 28 to 30, Jesus invites us to come to Him when we are weary and burdened, promising rest for our souls. This promise is a source of hope, reminding us that we don't have to carry our struggles alone. On the other hand, success can also test your faith. When things are going well, it's easy to become self-reliant, forgetting the role God played in your achievements. Putting Him first means recognizing that every blessing comes from Him and using your success to glorify Him. Whether it's a promotion, a new opportunity, or personal growth, these moments are chances to reflect His goodness to those around you. Humility is essential when navigating success. It keeps you grounded, reminding you that your accomplishments are not solely the result of your efforts but also of God's provision. This mindset not only honors Him but also protects you from the pride and entitlement that can come with success. When you put God first, you use your blessings to bless others, whether through generosity, mentorship, or acts of service. Another important aspect of putting God first is learning to discern His voice amid life's noise. Both adversity and success can cloud your judgment, making it difficult to know what steps to take. Spending time in prayer, reading the Bible, and seeking wise counsel are all ways to stay attuned to His direction. These practices help you align your decisions with His will, ensuring that your path remains focused on Him. One practical way to put God first is by adopting a posture of gratitude in every season. Gratitude shifts your perspective, helping you see God's hand in both the highs and lows of life. When you're facing challenges, gratitude reminds you of His past faithfulness, giving you the strength to trust Him with the present. And when you're experiencing success, gratitude keeps you humble, acknowledging that every good thing comes from Him. Ultimately, putting God first is about living with an eternal perspective. It's about recognizing that life's challenges and blessings are temporary, but your relationship with Him is eternal. This perspective gives you the courage to persevere through trials and the wisdom to handle success with grace. It anchors you in a love that never fails and a hope that never fades. As you continue to prioritize God, you'll find that His presence transforms every aspect of your life. Whether you're walking through a valley or standing on a mountaintop, He is with you, guiding your steps and shaping your story for His glory. And in that, you'll discover the profound peace and purpose that come from putting Him first in everything. When you put God first, you invite His presence into every area of your life, including your dreams, decisions, and daily routines. This invitation not only transforms how you live but also strengthens your ability to trust Him in every circumstance. Trust is the cornerstone of a faith-filled life, and it's what enables you to surrender your plans and embrace God's greater purpose. Trusting God begins with acknowledging that His wisdom far exceeds our understanding. As humans, we naturally gravitate toward control, believing that if we work hard enough, plan meticulously, or think through every detail, we can ensure the outcomes we desire. While diligence and preparation are important, they pale in comparison to the plans God has for us. In Isaiah 55 verses 8-9, we're reminded, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." This truth can be humbling, especially when life doesn't go as planned. Perhaps you've experienced a situation where you poured your heart into something, a career, a relationship, or a dream, only to see it fall apart. In those moments, it's easy to feel abandoned or question God's love. But putting Him first means believing that His "no" is not a rejection but a redirection. It's trusting that He sees what we cannot and is leading us towards something better, even when it's hard to understand. One of the most profound acts of trust is surrendering your future to God. This doesn't mean giving up on your goals or ambitions, it means seeking His guidance and allowing Him to shape your path. Before making major decisions, pause to pray, asking for His wisdom and clarity. Proverbs 3 verses 5-6 offers a timeless reminder: "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." As you practice trusting God, you'll notice how it changes your perspective on both success and failure. Success becomes less about achieving your personal goals and more about fulfilling His purpose. Failure, meanwhile, becomes an opportunity for growth and dependence on Him. When you put God first, you stop measuring your worth by worldly standards and start finding your identity in His love. One practical way to build trust in God is by reflecting on His past faithfulness. Take time to remember the ways He has provided for you, protected you, and guided you in the past. These memories serve as anchors, reminding you of His goodness when doubt creeps in. Keeping a journal of answered prayers or significant moments of His provision can be a powerful tool for strengthening your faith. Another way to deepen your trust is through consistent prayer. Prayer isn't just about asking for things, it's about building a relationship with God. When you regularly spend time in His presence, you develop a greater sense of peace and confidence in His plan. Even when you don't receive immediate answers, prayer reminds you that God is listening and that His timing is perfect. Worship is another key element of trust. When you praise God, especially in difficult circumstances, you're declaring your belief in His sovereignty. Worship shifts your focus from your problems to His power, helping you rest in the assurance that He is in control. This act of faith not only strengthens your relationship with Him but also fills you with hope and joy. Finally, putting God first in trust means letting go of the fear of the unknown. Fear is a natural response to uncertainty, but it doesn't have to control you. When you trust God, you're free to step into the unknown with confidence, knowing that He is with you every step of the way. This doesn't mean you won't feel afraid, it means you choose to move forward despite your fear, relying on His strength rather than your own. In trusting God, you discover a peace that transcends understanding. You learn to navigate life's twists and turns with grace, knowing that every moment, whether joyful or challenging, is part of His divine plan. And as you continue to put Him first, you'll find that your trust in Him grows deeper, transforming not only your life but also the lives of those around you. Putting God first doesn't just transform your personal life, it empowers you to become a source of light and hope for others. When you live with God as your foundation, your actions, words, and choices reflect His love, drawing people closer to Him. This outward expression of faith is not only a testament to your relationship with God but also an opportunity to impact the world in meaningful ways. One of the most significant ways to reflect God's love is through service. Service is an act of humility and compassion that puts the needs of others before your own. When you serve others, you embody the teachings of Jesus, who consistently demonstrated love through action. Whether it's volunteering in your community, supporting someone in need, or simply offering a listening ear, these acts of kindness point others toward God's heart. Consider how small, consistent actions can create a ripple effect. A kind word, a helping hand, or an encouraging message might seem insignificant, but it can profoundly impact someone's day, or even their life. When you put God first, you view these moments as opportunities to be His hands and feet, bringing light into dark places. Putting God first also transforms the way you share your faith. Evangelism isn't about forcing your beliefs on others, it's about living in a way that inspires curiosity and draws people toward God. When others see your peace in the face of challenges, your joy in the midst of uncertainty, and your unwavering faith, they'll want to know the source of your strength. Sharing your faith becomes a natural extension of your life, rooted in authenticity and love. Another way to put God first is by using your talents and gifts to glorify Him. Each of us has been uniquely equipped with abilities that can be used to serve others and honor God. Whether you're a teacher, artist, entrepreneur, or caregiver, your work becomes a form of worship when done with excellence and integrity. By dedicating your talents to God, you're not just pursuing personal success, you're contributing to His kingdom. Additionally, putting God first requires boldness to stand firm in your faith, even when it's unpopular. In today's culture, standing for truth and living according to God's principles can be challenging. You may face criticism, rejection, or even ridicule for your beliefs. But when God is your priority, you're willing to take a stand, trusting that He will honor your faithfulness. This boldness doesn't mean being confrontational or judgmental. Instead, it means living with conviction and grace, showing others the love of Christ through your actions. When you prioritize God, you're not afraid to be different because you know that your identity is rooted in Him, not in the approval of others. Another powerful way to put God first is through prayer for others. Interceding for your family, friends, and even strangers is a profound act of faith and love. It demonstrates your trust in God's ability to work in their lives, and your willingness to partner with Him in bringing about change. Prayer not only impacts those you're praying for but also deepens your relationship with God as you align your heart with His. Finally, putting God first means living with an eternal perspective. It's easy to get caught up in the demands and distractions of daily life, but when you prioritize God, you're reminded of what truly matters. You see your life not just as a collection of moments but as part of a greater story, one that points to His glory and grace. This eternal perspective helps you focus on what lasts, love, faith, and the impact you make on others. It reminds you that the choices you make today can have eternal significance, shaping not only your life but also the lives of those around you. When you put God first, you become a beacon of hope, joy, and love in a world that desperately needs all three. Your life becomes a reflection of His goodness, inspiring others to seek Him and experience the transformation that comes from making Him their priority. And in doing so, you fulfill your greatest purpose, to glorify God and draw others into a relationship with Him. Putting God first means building a life grounded in faith, hope, and love, pillars that shape not only your inner world but also your interactions with others. It's about allowing God to be the compass that guides your decisions, the anchor that steadies you in storms, and the light that shines through you for others to see. This lifestyle creates a legacy of faith that continues to inspire and impact long after your time on earth. At the heart of putting God first is faith, a deep, unshakable trust in His character and promises. Faith doesn't mean you'll always have clarity about what God is doing in your life. It means believing that He is good, even when the path ahead is uncertain. This trust is what enables you to step out in obedience, even when it feels risky or uncomfortable. It's what gives you the courage to say, God, I don't know where this is going, but I trust You. Faith is not passive, it requires action. Think about Abraham, who trusted God enough to leave his homeland without knowing where he was going. His faith was not just a feeling, it was a choice to obey God, even when the future was unclear. In your own life, putting God first might mean making similar leaps of faith. It could involve pursuing a calling that seems daunting, letting go of something that no longer serves His purpose, or standing firm in your beliefs when it's easier to conform. Hope is another cornerstone of putting God first. Life is filled with challenges that can leave you feeling discouraged or defeated, but hope keeps you anchored in God's promises. It reminds you that no matter how difficult the present may be, God's plan is for your ultimate good. This hope is not wishful thinking, it's a confident expectation rooted in His faithfulness. Hope changes how you approach setbacks and disappointments. When you put God first, you see challenges not as the end but as part of a greater story. You understand that every trial has a purpose, whether it's to refine your character, strengthen your faith, or prepare you for something greater. This perspective allows you to persevere with resilience and optimism, even in the face of uncertainty. Love is the final, and perhaps most essential, pillar of putting God first. God is love, and when you prioritize Him, your life becomes a reflection of His love for others. This love is not conditional or transactional, it's selfless, patient, and enduring. It's the kind of love that forgives when it's hard, gives without expecting anything in return, and seeks the best for others even at a personal cost. Living out this love requires intentionality. It means showing kindness to people who are difficult to love, extending grace to those who have wronged you, and seeking reconciliation where there is division. It also means being present in the lives of others, listening without judgment, and offering support without expecting recognition. These acts of love are not just good deeds, they are expressions of God's heart, and they have the power to transform lives. When you combine faith, hope, and love, your life becomes a testament to God's goodness. People are drawn to the peace and joy you carry, even in difficult circumstances. They see the authenticity of your faith, the strength of your hope, and the depth of your love, and they want to know the source of it all. This is the essence of putting God first, living in a way that points others to Him. As you continue to prioritize God, remember that it's a journey, not a destination. There will be days when it's easy to trust Him and days when it feels like a struggle. There will be moments of great faith and moments of doubt. But through it all, God's love for you remains constant. He doesn't ask for perfection, He asks for your heart. Putting God first is the foundation of a life well lived. It's what gives you peace in the midst of chaos, purpose in the midst of uncertainty, and joy in the midst of trials. It's what transforms your ordinary days into opportunities to glorify Him. And as you continue to walk in faith, hope, and love, you'll discover the incredible truth: when God is first, everything else falls into place. Putting God first is the ultimate act of trust and devotion. It's a daily commitment to surrender your plans, prioritize His will, and allow His presence to guide your every step. This decision transforms your heart, your relationships, and your purpose, aligning your life with something far greater than yourself. When you put God first, you're not just changing how you live, you're changing how you experience life. You find peace in the midst of uncertainty, knowing that God's plans are always for your good. You discover strength to face challenges, not because you're capable on your own, but because His power is made perfect in your weakness. You embrace joy that isn't dependent on circumstances but rooted in His unchanging love. This journey isn't always easy. It requires faith to trust in what you can't see, hope to persevere through life's trials, and love to reflect His heart in everything you do. There will be days when doubt creeps in, when distractions pull you away, or when surrender feels impossible. But God's grace meets you in those moments, reminding you that He is with you every step of the way. Putting God first doesn't mean you'll have a perfect life, free from hardship or pain. Instead, it means you'll have a life of purpose, anchored in His promises. You'll wake up each day with the assurance that you are deeply loved, divinely guided, and uniquely equipped to make a difference in the world. As you continue this journey, remember that you're not alone. Millions of others are walking this path alongside you, striving to live lives that honor God. Together, we reflect His glory, inspire others to seek Him, and create a legacy of faith that outlives us. So, choose to put God first, not just in the big decisions, but in the small, everyday moments that shape your life. Make Him the center of your dreams, the foundation of your relationships, and the source of your strength. Let your life be a living testimony of His goodness, grace, and power. When God is first, everything else falls into place. Not because life becomes easier, but because your priorities align with the One who created you and loves you unconditionally. And in that alignment, you'll find the peace, joy, and purpose your soul has been searching for.